Hello! So today I'm going to be making a bunch of shorts. Right now I have plans to make 3 different pairs, but depending on how some of them go, it might turn to 4 or 5, we shall see. For all of these shorts, I'm using my Anya shorts pattern. So I have all of the pieces cut out. I'm going to be making a couple different versions today. First, it's going to be a leisure pair of shorts. So I have this stretchy rib fabric. It is so soft. I've made a top out of this that has been worn all the time. It's long sleeve, so I haven't worn it in a while, but in the winter, I seriously wear this top every single day. So I really wanted to make a pair of lounge shorts to go with it. Honestly, this fabric is not the best for shorts. It's a little bit see-through. Yeah, you can literally see. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. To be fair, it's just gonna be around the house. Maybe you can just go commando and you won't see underwear underneath. Is that worse? I don't know. Or just wear them to bed or just as underwear, honestly. That's gonna be the first pair. I'm gonna do single lined and I think I'm gonna do the waistband, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Then the second pair is going to be a pair of swimsuit shorts and they're gonna be reversible. When I published the pattern, I only included the instructions for a single lined version. So in this video, I'm gonna do a double lined version. I'm gonna use this gorgeous tomato fabric from Spoonflower. And on the reverse side, I'm gonna use this also gorgeous fabric, but I kind of just need to use it up. So this is definitely gonna be the primary side. For these, I don't think I'm gonna do a waistband because I don't want to have a cut in this beautiful pattern. And then third, also for personal reason, is this activewear fabric. This is from Blue Moon Fabrics. It's their Synergy fabric. The best way I can describe it is it's probably most similar to a Lululemon Align fabric. Not quite, nothing quite is that good, but this one is pretty dang close. So I have a bunch of this and I'm gonna make some running shorts. For this, I definitely wanna do a waistband and I'm considering sizing down in the activewear shorts so that I can use them for running, but also I don't know how much I'm gonna be running. So maybe I'll just go with my normal size and just wear them around the house. For this fabric, I'm definitely gonna size down, only because it's so stretchy that I think if I went with my normal size, it would just feel too loose. And I probably could even size down 2 sizes, but again, because of the translucency, I don't want to take any risks. Okay, so I am just going to batch cut all of my pieces and then probably stop filming and move on to something else. Alright, so I'm back. I've cut everything and I wanted to provide a little explanation of how many pieces I cut for each version and the modifications that I made. So for the leisure wear shorts, I just cut 1 layer and I did end up doing a waistband. So I cut 2 layers of the waistband and 1 layer of the just normal shorts piece. Because of the opacity of this fabric, I might end up cutting another layer of the shorts and double lining them. We'll just see. I think I'm gonna make them up and then decide. But for these, I did size down to a small. Right now, I'm kind of measuring in between a medium and a large, but I feel pretty good about going with a small, so we'll see. And then for the activewear shorts, the black ones, I did the same thing as I did with the leisure shorts. So I did 1 layer of the shorts part and then 2 layers of the waistband. So then third, the double lined. This is where I strayed from the directions. So if you're doing double lined, you will cut 2 of the shorts pieces. If you're doing the waistband version, you'll cut 2 of the waistbands, but that's already regardless of what version you make. So I have a front in one fabric and then a front in the other fabric. And then I have my mirrored backs. 1 fabric, 2 fabric, 1 fabric, and 2 fabric. I'm not doing a waistband for this one. And then you're also gonna be cutting 2 gussets. So literally double everything except for the waistband. I'm just now realizing that I accidentally cut a small for the waistband and a medium for the actual shorts on these. I forgot that when I cut in the gray fabric, I cut down my pattern into a small, but then I went back and cut this waistband. So yeah. I think we're gonna be okay without double lining them. We'll see though once I sew on the waistband what things are looking like. But so far so good. Something that I'm doing with these that I would not do with swimwear is as I'm sewing the seams, I'm actually stretching it both from the front and from the back. Since these are smaller than your body, when you wear them, it actually stretches out in order to fit you. So my hope is that by sewing it with a stretch, I can have the stitches spread out more versus if you sew it like it's relaxed, as soon as you put it on, it will stretch just because the stitch does stretch, but how much it stretches is up for debate, and it just would feel a lot more relaxed to have it pre-stretched in some ways. So here is what they are looking like now. I did a basting stitch to test the hemming length that I wanted to do on this side, and I like the length of that. They are a little bit loose, but that's also just this fabric. This particular fabric is so stretchy, and I think like a normal jersey fabric would be fine if you just size down one size. But for this fabric, the stretch is over 100%, so I just think that more modifications would be needed for this fabric. So as I was trying these on and I was looking at the hem, I had this idea of using this stretch lace in the hem. I feel like that would be so cute. So I don't think I'm gonna do any like fancy way of attaching this. I think I'm just gonna honestly just top stitch it on. But isn't that so pretty? And it's so stretchy, so it'd be perfect for a place that could get really tight, like the thighs. You definitely want it to be able to stretch for this. And you know how I said when I was sewing, I was stretching the seams so that when I put it on, it wouldn't feel too tight? Well, I feel like I could have stretched more because as like the waistline was going over the hips, obviously the waist is smaller than the hips, I think it could have been stretched a little bit more. Stretching it is gonna produce this wavy effect that you see. Well, really, once you put them on, the waviness won't be there because it'll be stretched out. So let's do this hem. So I just finished the lace hem. I just did it on one to see how it was gonna feel. And there's only one problem, and that is that I hate it. So I think I'm going to scrap that idea. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut this shorter, and then I'm just gonna do a lettuce hem. It's perfect, it's stretchy, and I think it'll look cute. So I did a lettuce hem. This is what that looks like. This isn't a true lettuce hem. All I did was just remove one needle and then I stretched it as much as it could stretch as I sewed an overlock stitch. So it's a 3-thread overlock stitch. If I was doing this correctly, I would narrow my stitch width, but every time I mess with this machine, it takes off 5 years from my life, and I just do not want to deal with that. This has already kind of been a pain trying to figure out how I want to do these, and I just want to be done. And I haven't done it on the other side because I want to try it on, because I'm thinking that as soon as I put this on, since it's not like ruffly enough, I think it's gonna stretch and just be unnoticeable. So I might end up redoing it once I can use my other serger that has automatic tension, but that other serger is upstairs and my toddler is sleeping upstairs. So yeah, that's gonna have to wait. So for now, we're gonna put these to the side. I'll show a final reveal at the end. Next are the activewear shorts. These, I'm not doing anything different with the instructions. Same construction as the gray shorts. So I've already gotten started on some of that. I have the back panels attached. I've made the waistband. Then I just need to attach front and back and put in the gusset. These are pretty much following the directions to a T, minus when I do the waistband, I'm gonna show you how to do it a different way. The way that I'm thinking, instead of matching the waistband into the waistline with right sides together, you do it with wrong sides together so that your serger seams can show on the outside. And then you top stitch those seams down and it gives kind of like a faux flat lock type of look. You'll see what I mean when we get there, but flat locking is an industry standard for activewear stitches, and you can buy an industrial flat lock machine, but I wouldn't know the first thing on how to use it. And it's such a specific machine for a specific function that I just don't make enough activewear to justify it. I wanted to show you one nice trick if you need to mark the center notches on something. So there's a notch here and there's a notch here. You could totally just lay the pattern piece on top and then snip, but something cool that I learned is you can fold it in half, take some scissors and snip at an angle like that. There's 1/4 inch of seam allowance, so try not to take too much. And then once you take off those triangular snips, you can open it up. And those notches are really easy to see. This definitely is a little trickier with 1/4 inch of seam allowance, but it's nice because the notches are super, super obvious. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're going to attach the waistband. So I have the bottom part all assembled, side seams and gusset. And then I have my waistband all assembled. I have a basting stitch ran around to make this part easier. So ordinarily in the instructions, you keep the bottoms inside out and then you would put the waistband inside of that and then sew around so that right sides are together. But instead what we're going to do here is we are going to have the bottom's right side out and then the band inside, and we're going to sew like that. So the right side is out and then the waistband is inside, and we'll sew in a circle over the whole thing. Whenever you get to the center back seam when you're sewing the waistband on, check to see which way it's sewn where it's attached to the gusset, and make sure that your seam is flipped that way when you sew it on the waistband. Okay, so now you will see that that seam is now on the right side. So the next thing you do is top stitch this down, and it gives you a nice faux flat lock look. And actually, while I'm still at my serger, I thought it could be cute to serge the hem and then flip it up towards the right side. That way we have a little more of this contrast thread. I don't know if that's just gonna make it look worse, but we're gonna see. So I did try on the fake lettuce hem, and it definitely stretched out and just completely mitigated the cute lettuce hem detail. So I haven't decided if I'm going to use my serger. I might go grab it upstairs and redo this part. I don't know why that seems like such a huge task when it's easily the quickest way to finish a hem, and it looks really cute. So I think I'm gonna suck it up and just do that, but then that will complete the loungewear shorts. And then the activewear shorts, in the last clip I was talking about how maybe I would flip the hem up and top stitch it like that so there was more contrast thread, but then I realized that it would just look inside out. Instead, what I would have done is when I went to sew the side seams here, that would have been cool with contrast thread. So instead of matching the side seams with right sides together, you'd match them with wrong sides together, and then you'd go and sew the waistband. But I didn't do that, and that is okay. However, I did try these on. They fit perfectly, and I really, really like them. And I like them so much that I think I'd actually get more wear if I didn't have the seam attached like this. But I did just want to show it for this video so you know that you could do that. If you do want to do the faux flat lock, the next step that you would be doing is folding this seam allowance down and top stitching it with a stretch stitch. That way it's not like floppy and looks unfinished. But for me, I'm going to seam rip this and then sew in the waistband with right sides together. Again, I just think that it will get more wear that way. So I'm gonna take care of those today, finish those ones up. Before I move on, I wanted to mention one more thing about choosing a size if you're gonna do lounge shorts like this. So I just fully sized down to a small. Like I said, I could have done an extra small, but what I didn't take into account was that going down a size was also going to reduce the rise. Since these are gusseted, having the reduced rise kind of pulled this point up a little far, and so I didn't really like how that fit. What I would do differently is go with the extra small or small for the width, but not size down in the rise, because otherwise it's gonna drag that inseam up a little bit, or it's gonna sit below your tummy. So for me personally and my body, I really needed that extra rise just to cover up my belly, but you live and you learn. I just finished the lettuce hem shorts, and I want to show you what I was talking about with the rise. I have leggings on because some of you are sickos. So the gusset attaches right here, and that's if this is like comfortably up on my waist. Really, the gusset should be just slightly back like that. When that happens, the rise is just short of covering my tummy, and I don't like that. If I were to make these again, I would keep the same rise, but just size down in the width. Alright, so we're going to move on to the double lined version. Now there are a couple different ways that you can do this. Previously, when I was making up samples, I fully sewed the inner layer and the outer layer. So back piece, front piece, gusset all together for both layers. I inserted one layer inside of the other, and then I used the burrito method to get the waistline in both leg holes. But I was talking with someone on Instagram who suggested instead assembling these just like the Charlie bottoms, but first attaching the gusset. So that's what I'm going to try out today. I think that is a lot easier than the burrito method, but if you know what I'm talking about and you want to give that a try, that is also an option. So in this method, we are going to assemble the front and back pieces, and then the last step is attaching them at the side seams. So I will update the cutting list and the instructions to reflect what the cut list will be like for the double lined. But basically you're going to cut double what you would cut for the single lined. Here I'm doing a reversible swimsuit. So I'm cutting one set of pieces in one fabric and then another set of pieces in a different fabric. Once you're ready for construction, the first thing you're gonna do is match your two back pieces with right sides together, and using an overlock, zigzag, or stretch stitch of your choice, you are going to sew down the center back seam. You're also gonna get out your front piece and your gusset for both the lining and the outer fabric, and you're gonna match the center of the gusset onto the center front of the shorts, with right sides together, of course. And if you're making the 6 or 8 inch inseam options, you will need to use the notches to see where the gusset piece is going to taper off. But if you're making the 1, 2, or 4 inch inseams, the end of the gusset piece will match up with the end of the inseam. So for both the lining fabric and the outer fabric, sew the gusset to the front piece. If you need a little more clarification on exactly how to sew the gusset, you can reference the written directions for more of a visual on that. Here I'm using a 4-thread overlock stitch, and I am not using elastic yet. When you're doing the double lined versus the single lined, we're following a lot of the same steps, but we're just doing them twice, one with the outer fabric and one with the inner fabric. Here I'm just trimming up my shorts. I ended up cutting the 8 inch inseam with the intention of trimming it later on. So here I'm doing my best to try and cut it as evenly as possible. If you cut the right pattern pieces for the length you wanted, you won't need to do this. Then you're going to take your two front pieces. Again, both of them have the gussets attached, and you are going to match them each with right sides together. Using a basting stitch, you are going to sew the waistline and each of the leg holes. And you'll notice that for some length options, when you sew onto the leg holes, you're also going to be sewing onto the gusset. So just keep that in mind. You'll match your back pieces also with right sides together. And using a basting stitch, you are also going to sew the waistline and the two leg holes. These leg lines actually have a 1/2 inch of seam allowance, or 13 millimeters. So normally you would be sewing this with 1/4 inch of seam allowance, but if you want to get exactly right on the inseam length, you will want to use 1/2 inch of seam allowance for the leg lines. Since I already trimmed my inseam earlier, I'm not super worried about it, but just keep that in mind if you're wanting to be more exact. A basting stitch is a long straight stitch that's meant to be temporary. This is just gonna make things way easier when we go to attach elastic in the next step. So once you're happy with your basting and everything looks pretty even, you don't want any bubbling in the fabric, you don't want the seams to be mismatched, make sure you like how it's looking and then move on to elastic. So here I am attaching 1/4 inch swimwear elastic, and I'm gonna sew that elastic right on top of the basting stitches that we just sewed. When you're sewing the elastic, you do not want to stretch it. You want the elastic to be equal with the seam length. And you also attach the elastic next to the raw edge. It doesn't matter what side you attach the elastic to, but make sure you're attaching it all to the same side. So for me, I'm attaching it all to the side with the tomato fabric. I get tons of questions on elastic a lot, and a while ago I did make a 3-part series all about swimwear elastic. So if you have more questions and you want to see some demonstrations that are a little more in depth, then you will want to check out that playlist. And when I do the leg hole of the front piece, you can see that I start off from the leg hole and then it continues on to the gusset. That is totally fine, it is intentional. Just make sure that the seams at the gusset are sewn down in the same direction. That way there's no seam flipping happening. And also for the 6 and the 8 inch inseam lengths, you don't touch any of the gusset, it'll just be the leg holes. Now that the elastic is attached, we are going to be able to attach the front and the back together. So first off, you're going to take your front piece and you are going to flip it all the way out to the right side. Using a basting stitch, you are going to sew closed the side seams and the remaining gusset seam. And you'll notice that this gusset piece looks a little different than if you were to use this method to sew bikini bottoms. It's definitely an odd shape, but trust the process, it will all work out. All right, so we are all basted and ready to sew the sides and the gusset, which will officially attach the front and the back piece. So keep your back piece inside out, and obviously your front piece will be right side out, as it already is. You're gonna insert the front inside of the back piece. Make sure that your matching fabrics are right sides together. And you are going to align the front and back at each of the side seams as well as at the gusset. Use pins or clips as needed to keep everything straight and organized in there. Really try hard not to twist anything, otherwise obviously it will not turn out the way you want it to. And take extra care when you're pinning this gusset since it is kind of an awkward shape. It's a lot wider versus when we do bikini bottoms. If you are cutting the 6-inch or 8-inch inseams, your gusset is not going to extend all the way to the bottom of the leg holes. When you're sewing with 1/4 inch of seam allowance, that gusset will actually taper off until you're sewing just the inseam, just the leg lines. If that is confusing to you, then you can reference the written directions. Even though they're for the single line version, it does show a visual on how this tapering off looks. And using a straight stitch or some sort of narrow stretch stitch, we are going to sew the side seams and the gusset, again using 1/4 inch of seam allowance. So here I'm using a stretch stitch, which is something that my machine has. Not all machines have a stretch stitch, but you can use a zigzag, a lightning stitch, anything capable of stretching, but that is also narrow. That way you can trim the excess. And honestly, you could use a straight stitch here. You can definitely use one on the gusset since that's really not gonna stretch at all. The only risk with using a straight stitch on these side seams is say that you kind of aggressively pull your shorts up. There is a risk there of snapping that seam. But if you're careful and you don't plan to do that, then a straight stitch could be fine. I do that with a ton of my swimwear. And when you go to sew the gusset, you're also going to want to leave a hole about 2 inches wide. So you'll sew a portion of the gusset, backstitch and trim, leave about 2 inches, and then continue sewing the rest of the gusset seam. This hole is going to allow us to take everything to the right side here in a second. So once the side seam and the gusset are all sewn, you're going to take some scissors and trim off any of the excess. Here it's most important to trim off the excess elastic, but you can also trim off just a little bit of fabric as well. Then through the hole that we left in the gusset, you're going to take the entire piece all the way out to the right side. The final step is top stitching or hand sewing the hole that we left. The way I like to do this is tuck in the raw edges and use a straight stitch to top stitch it, but you can also do an invisible stitch by hand. Since the rest of the seam is sewn, the raw edges do kind of already fold inward, so this is pretty easy. You just have to make sure that you're catching your lining side underneath as well. For me, that's always been the trickiest part, is it'll look really good from the outside, but then I flip it over and the other raw edge is still there. Mine definitely is not perfect, but it's better than when I started. And plus, this is the lining side. It's in a really discreet place, so I'm not gonna go back and make it any more perfect. All right, people, so here are the double-lined swim shorts. They turned out very, very good. Don't forget before you put them on to break the basting stitches, otherwise they're gonna fit way too tight. But yeah, really cute, lots of coverage if you are into that. I certainly am into a lot of coverage. Also, please excuse my mess. I'm downstairs, we're renovating. And here is the reverse side. So the double lined are really cute, super happy with these. These will get lots of use, and it's awesome not having this front seam. I'd say for the double lined, if you don't want too tight of a fit, you can size up. 2 layers of swimwear fabric is gonna be tighter than 1 layer of fabric. And so if you really are trying to avoid anything being too tight, it would be safe to size up in the double lined version. Okay, and here are the activewear shorts. I don't know why, but I am so surprised at how much I actually like these. I am a Lululemon diehard, and so I'm so particular about construction and fabrication. And I kind of expected these to be more of a spare pair for when my regular shorts are dirty. But I think that I actually like the fit of these better. The length of them is perfect. They really don't have issues with the inseam riding up, so I think they're gonna be great for running. In my cutting error, where I made the small waistband but the medium everywhere else, it's not great. I'd probably still prefer a medium waistband, but it's really not bad. It's definitely still wearable, so lesson learned. Yeah, honestly, no notes on these. These fit so well. The fabric feels so good. I don't know if I mentioned it, but this is the Synergy fabric from Blue Moon Fabrics. I've made a bunch of activewear stuff out of this same fabric, and every time I try it, it is just so pleasant. So these are gonna get so much use. Like, they came up a little bit, but they kind of relax at that length. They really don't come up any more than that. So super, super happy with that. So the lounge shorts I'm gonna be trying on with my other shorts below because the fabric is just too sheer. This actually shows really well why I should have not sized down on the rise. Like, the black is where they should sit and where it's comfortable for me. In order to get that, I do have to pull this up too much, and that is not ideal. These are super cozy. I already talked about the edits that I would make for the next time that I do these. But for a first shot, they're definitely wearable and they're definitely going to be worn. All right, you guys, that's gonna be it from me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you liked the style of the video, if you wanna see some more like this. If you have any questions on the tutorial, I know it was a lot quicker than what I usually do. Comment them, send me an email, any of that, and I'll do my best to help you out. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.